Krishna suggested this session, and I'm really hopeful that it will. I think it's coming at the right time. So, but make it yours. Make sure that you can get the grades out of this, because we want you to do really well. Okay.
Perfect. All right. Can everyone see the screen in front of them?
You see the slides? They're all visible. Thank you.
Yep.
Great. Okay. So, hi guys. Today I'm going to be giving you a refresher into critical writing. So there'll be a few activities that you're probably familiar with, but this is again just to get you refreshed and used to critical writing and critical evaluation, all those key terms that you tend to see. And at the end, we're going to analyze a student example, which you won't have seen before, but it does come into this idea of focusing on less, but going into a bit more depth when it comes to analyzing certain aspects. So hopefully this will be useful. And of course, if you do need to book a one-to-one with us, get in touch. We're in a good position at the moment where we haven't got that many students because they all finished in block 4. So we've got time to see your work, and we're flexible in terms of the number of one-to-ones that you can have. So get in touch with us, and we can get you booked in. Of course, if you have any questions, just pop it in the chat or just shout out during the session for me. Okay, so before we get started, in the chat or just out loud, just tell me what you associate with critical thinking, critical evaluation, all these terms. What comes to mind when these terms are presented to you? So just pop it into the chat for me, just so I can get an understanding of where everyone is at with critical writing. Okay, good, bad, comparison. Anything else?
So the way that I think about critical thinking is when I apply a model or anything like that into an assignment, it's about criticizing and comparing it against others.
Yeah, okay.
That's how I try and use critical thinking.
So this idea of application, theory and application to practice.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Great stuff. Okay, so we've got a few ideas here. So in terms of what critical thinking is, because you'll see various terms used in feedback and assignment briefs, but they all come under the same umbrella of critical writing. So when it comes to critical thinking, we think of it as an action and a disposition. So this idea of considering something, deliberating something, evaluating a particular concept or an idea and judging whether it's been effective or not. And again, this is dependent on what you're trying to achieve within your assignments, the task you're trying to answer, and also the different aspects of it. So you're doing a report, or a report style assignment. It might be that in certain sections you will be presenting this idea of consideration, deliberation of a particular concept. In other sections, you might be focusing a little bit more on the evaluative side. So think about when you are dividing your work up into sections, what aspects you're going to be focusing on, not just in terms of content, but in terms of the skills required for each section. So in terms of what we think of as critical thinking, we think of it as examining of reasoning, assumptions, ability to solve problems, and a questioning of received wisdom. So again, this will come out as you're structuring your assignment and the different aspects that you're going to be addressing. So, your learning outcomes will become imperative here. So think about the verbs that are being used in your learning outcomes. So, you're critically evaluating, are you appraising, are you not analyzing? So all these high level verbs that are used will be important when it comes to applying critical thinking in your writing. So this probably looks familiar to you all. So we've got 6 elements associated with critical analysis, and as mentioned, making connections between theory and practice is one of them. And along with that comes with critiquing, comparing, developing an argument, evaluation, and implication. So again, we're not asking that you include all 6 of these, because again, it depends on what's being asked of you task-wise, but most of these will be applicable, especially if you're trying to hit those mid-firsts. So basing things on that, what I would like you to do, I'm going to pop the easiest way to do this, right? I'm going to pop a task sheet into the chat if I can. Okay, well, let me drop. Hannah, how do I upload a file into the chat?
Let's have a think. If you
normally it gives me the option to, but it doesn't seem to be doing that today.
Oh, I wonder if it's it doesn't give me either.
That's strange. It normally does it, doesn't it?
So we've got a format. Is there another way of doing it?
If not, I can just I can share the screen, but normally it lets me drop it. Okay.
Yeah, it's not set up on.
That's fine. Okay, let me do it another way then. I've got an alternative. Okay. Right, I've tried to make the font big enough on here.
It's hard to get on 2 pages, isn't it? Make it as big as possible.
Right, so let's see if I can do this. Right, can everyone see the font? Is anyone having issues with it?
No, that's fine.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. What I would like you to do is match the definition to the critical analysis element. So, you know, you can put 1 equals red, 3 equals orange, 5 equals gray. So these are the different elements of critical analysis, and underneath are the definitions associated with each one. So match the number to the color. And you can pop it in the chat. Just give you a few minutes to do that. I'll give you 5 minutes to do that, and then we'll go through it. Hannah, just to confirm, or just to clarify, they're doing a marketing plan. Are they structuring it in a report format or a report style?
Yeah, so I've created a because I run a marketing business. So I've got sort of a format that I use for my clients. So it is it has sort of situation analysis. So it is all sort of structured.
Okay.
But I'd really like it written, because then there's a Viva afterwards on it.
Right.
Which sort of said it must be like a conversation. It's not a presentation. It's sort of a discussion around what they've done and what they're preparing. So it does need to be written in an engaging way, like it is I sort of almost like this idea of a sort of role playing, really, that they are like a member of the team proposing this, rather than feeling like an academic piece of work.
Yeah, so there's a professional and academic stance to be taken with this.
Exactly, yeah, and it's supported by research models, theories, but they're not dumped in, because it's not driven by that. Does that make sense? It's driven by the sort of what they're trying to put across. So that's the thinking.
Okay. Okay, and getting some answers through, which is great. So I'll give you a couple more minutes and then we'll go through it. And also what I want you to do is think about as well which are going to be most applicable to your marketing plan. And yes, all of them can be an answer as well. Okay, right. So I'm just going to stop presenting that one. So I've seen some answers in there. Most of them have been close. Wait, that's the same one. Sorry. That's not what I wanted. I will send you this handout. I've got it in PDF form at the end of this session as well via email, so you've got it to hand. Okay, so we've got here the matched elements to the definitions. So we've got making connections between theory and practice. So this idea of applying a theoretical approach to something. So basically theory and application, essentially. Critiquing established knowledge or practices. So taking a particular perspective on a concept or a topic. Comparing theories or approaches. So looking at similarities or differences. Developing an argument, so taking your own position or stance on a task, and of course being supported by research that you ultimately have undertaken. Looking at strengths and weaknesses, so this idea of evaluating according to potential criteria that either you've come up with yourself or that you've used research to come up with, and using this to come to a particular conclusion about something, so whether it's theory or an approach. And then considering implications for practice, this idea of what this means for the wider world or the wider subject area. And, you know, if you're talking about things in terms of practitioners or stakeholders in your case, how this is important and why this whole, not just assignment, but this top area of research is important. So which do you think are going to be most relevant for you for this particular assignment? Bearing in mind what is being asked of you. So think about the learning outcomes that are associated with each of the different elements. So just quickly in the chat or out loud, which of these do you think are going to apply? And six. Okay, let's have a look. Implications of practice. Who was that?
Me, Jay.
Jay. Hi, Jay. So Jay, why do you say 6? In what way do you think?
I think obviously because we're making recommendations on how they can achieve their objectives. So, and obviously you're then going to consider the implications.
Yeah, great stuff. Anything else?
I think maybe 4, because you're like Jay said, you're making recommendations based on the the situational analysis that you've completed.
Yes, exactly.
Maybe 2 as well, because obviously they've done certain things previously that haven't worked out, so you need to look at what they've done and then critique it.
Great stuff. So you can see already that, you know, by applying these elements to certain aspects of your assignment, you've already been able to pick out what's going to be most relevant. So in the same way, when it comes to structuring your assignment, rather than thinking about it as, you know, 10 or 12 elements that you can write about, think about it in terms of, you know, 6 or 7, just a few that you can really focus on. And might be worth, in fact, say if you're applying 4 out of the 6 from these 6 elements, probably put them in a table and have alongside, let's say, I don't know, comparing theories or approaches. What theories are you looking at or approaches? Why? What are the differences and similarities between them? If there are quite a few similarities and differences, can you pick out a couple that you can really focus on and that you can come to a particular conclusion about, and whether you can apply it to the context or to the particular case that you're discussing. So it might be worth using this to structure elements of your assignment, just so that you've got that particular focus, rather than looking at it, as I said, with lots of different things that you can write about. It might take you away from that descriptive or heaviness on the descriptive end. And of course, if you need any advice on how to structure a particular argument, we've got handouts. You can book an appointment with us as well. So, you can show us a particular paragraph and ask, is this evidence of critiquing established knowledge, for example? And we can provide you with advice on whether it is or not, and how you can refine it even further. So I will send this, as I said, I've got this in a sort of slightly neater PDF format, and I'll send it at the end of the session for you guys to refer to. Right, okay, let's go back. Are there any questions so far, or is everyone happy? Great stuff. Okay, so that is just the table itself. Just out of curiosity, which of these do you find most difficult to apply to your writing, would you say?
Probably the critiquing established knowledge or practices.
Okay, and why do you find that difficult? Is it a confidence thing, or is it just how to structure it in the writing, or both?
I think a bit of both.
Okay, we've got some language that you can use to present, your own interpretation using third person, which I will give you at the end of the session as well. But when you're structuring it, don't be afraid to disagree or agree, or bring in other pieces of research that might disagree or contest with someone else. That is something that you'll build up as you're writing your assignment, and it is a difficult skill, but that ability to say, well, actually, this particular piece of research was not effective because they haven't considered this, for example. And so long as you've got data to back it up, then you'll be fine. So in terms of how to start to think critically and to write critically, we look at it in terms of 4 elements or 4 branches. So subject knowledge, habits of mind, strategies, and standards in the subject area as well. So as I'm going through this, think about not just the particular assignment, but what you've learned in terms of subject knowledge and the standards in the particular topic that you're going to be addressing. So in terms of the first one, increasing subject knowledge, we think about the depth of knowledge, understanding, and experience. So this is where you start looking at accepted values or ways of doing things or thinking about things. And, you can get this through research, through your tutor slides, through reports, anything like that. And this in particular, when it comes to linking into is critiquing established knowledge, is there a particular way of doing something, for example, that you can critique, or that's out of date perhaps, or the complete opposite, that's really effective? And if so, why? And this comes down to looking at debates and critiques inside and outside of the subject. So if you are looking at appraising something or critically evaluating something, have a look at the debates and critiques that are surrounded in that particular topic. And this will come through research articles. You'll find people disagreeing with one another in some way, shape or form. And that's what you want to put across in your writing if you're looking at it from this end. Gaining knowledge of standards of good thinking, so looking at credible statements, adequate claims, the validity and the strength of arguments. So again, can this be challenged in some way? And this takes confidence as well, as you're building up in your writing. So this idea of having critical conversations, being able to question something, is important when it comes to applying critical writing. And again, you can use phrases to demonstrate this, which I will show you towards the end. A lot of it is about making it explicit to the reader that you are questioning something and that you are critiquing something. I've seen a few assignments that students have I think they've assumed that the reader will know that they're critiquing something, but they haven't made it explicit through the language in their writing. And that's part of the problem when it comes to trying to figure out what the student is doing. And so long as you make it explicit through the language, then you should be fine in terms of the reader being able to make sense of it. Number 3, employing critical thinking strategies. So this idea of counter examples to an approach or conclusion. List of for or against something. So in the chat, I know good and bad was mentioned. So if you are critiquing something and you're looking at the advantages and disadvantages, again, have it in the form of a table in your planning stages. If you've got quite a few, cherry pick the ones that are going to be most relevant to you and then apply them into your writing, because then you're able to not only pick a focal point, but also discuss that focal point in your writing. And I'll get onto that when I discuss the example with you. Developing good habits of mind. So critically engaging with the world and the subject knowledge, being open and fair-minded, and the ability to dig underneath the surface. So this idea of looking at things in a little bit more depth, whether it's looking at a few things in more depth, then that should be what you're doing, rather than looking at multiple things in not enough depth. So in terms of useful terms, we've got this in a guide. So what we've got on our LibGuides page now as an updated guide is a glossary of terminology. And this terminology is typically used in learning outcomes, and hopefully that will be useful as well for you as you're going through your assignments. So this idea of being able to assess something or evaluate something. So are you looking at a defined set of criteria or a set of standards? Being critical or looking at something critically, so questioning and challenging established views. So this could be a model, a community, a piece of legislation, anything like that. So think about any assumptions or bias it carries with it, or anything it has particularly missed. So this idea of being able to question something and then recommend something that's missing, for example. So keeping all of that in mind, I'm going to give you a piece of student writing to read. Now, I won't be able to share it because it won't let me. Let me just see. Okay. Right. I'm going to try and view this on 2 pages. Okay. Right. Actually, Hannah, if I email this to you, is there a way that you can upload it or something? Because it's 2 pages, and I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't able to share it for some reason.
Yeah. If I can't see either, as you've
It comes up the little plus sign to add a document, and then it disappears, which is really strange.
I can email it out to everyone now if they don't mind checking their, because I've got an email list of people. So if you want to forward it to me, then I can do it that way. So I'm sorry you've got to log on to your work emails. Please don't be distracted if you can. but if this is the best way of getting it, then that's what we'll do.
You know what, as well, this was going to be my different way of doing things rather than emailing it to you in advance. I thought, oh, I'll do it in the session.
No, that's a good idea. I'm sorry.
Right. Student example. There we go. Okay, Hannah, that's gone to you now.
Okay, I'll just do what I need to do my end and get the email list up. So Tamsin and Tom, I'll email it to your personal accounts. Okay.
Just
give me a minute to find them all. Right.
Okay, are people able to open the document?
No, they haven't got it yet. Just wait one second.
Sorry.
I'm so sorry. It's me. Just
Oh, no, it's all right.
I
really do. It's baffling that we
Isn't
can't.
that odd? It's really strange, yeah, because we can normally
I can
upload
add
files.
emojis. I can add as many emojis as I want, but
Sad face. Yeah. Yes, it should have gone now. Okay, so it's just going over to your work or your personal email. Okay.
it won't even let me copy and paste the file. It normally allows me to do that as well. That's really strange.
Yeah, I haven't set it up in a strange way or anything. It's just as normal. So
No,
yeah.
it's perfectly, yes. I think it's a Teams thing rather than.
I've got the document.
Great stuff.
Thank you.
Okay. Right, all. Once you've got the document, I'm going to give you because this is I've deliberately left time for this task. I'm going to give you about 15 minutes to read through it. What it is, it's a sample piece of writing. Bear in mind, I've not included all the sections because, of course, it's a very lengthy report. I've omitted the figures and tables, so there are references to it, but I've gotten rid of them. So what I would like you to do is have a look through this piece of work and see if you can identify elements of the critical analysis table. So I will go back to In fact, what I'll do is I'll share that table again so that you've got it to refer to. And then what we'll do is we'll go through it. I've got my own annotated version as well of what I found. So what I'd for the purpose of this activity is for you to see how you can apply certain aspects of critical analysis to your writing so that you're able to hit those higher level marks. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah, sorry, can I just get the table again, please?
Yeah, I'm just popping it up now.
Sorry, my version is blurred, so.
There you go.
I can, have you got the table version?
Yeah, I'll get the table version.
That just fits better on my page, that's all.
That might be easier actually, the table. Okay, let's see if I can do this in.
Sorry if it's been a pain. Don't worry if it's not working.
Right, the table unfortunately is on 2 pages, so.
Okay, no worries.
Actually, I've got a better idea. One sec. Okay, let's see if this works. Oh, that's worked. Right, I've popped it in the chat, guys. So you can copy and paste that into a document or refer to it in the chat. Does that make things a little easier? It's got the bullet points as well under each of the.
Cheers.
And I've also got it on the screen for you as well. Right, guys, I'll give you 3 to 4 more minutes and then we can discuss. Okay, so what do we reckon then from this task? Let me just bring the piece of work up.
There's a good comparison between Debenhams and its
Okay,
competitors.
did anyone spot any evidence of the 6 elements?
Was there a bit of the making connection between theory and practice in the SWOT analysis introduction at the start?
Yeah, yep, exactly that. I've got that in my my comments as well. Great stuff. Anything else? So one of the things this student did particularly well was focusing on, so they had a SWOT table. However, they didn't focus on every single element that they described in the table. They cherry picked what would be relevant and described it in these paragraphs here, and linked it to whether other retailers to compare with, that sort of thing. So did anyone else find any other elements present in any of the paragraphs?
Towards the end, like the summary of findings and the recommendations, I thought that linked well with 6. So considering implications for practice, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, well done.
I think the 4th one was quite good as well, where it's developing a persuasive argument supported by evidence. So it's talking about obviously the social media aspect of it. So it's saying that they've looked at the evidence to say that they're behind on their social media followers, so therefore they can do more in that area.
Yeah, great stuff. So they've got some statistics to back up the argument that they're trying to put across, and then they come to a conclusion that they need to be doing more across the platforms. So can everyone start to see how different elements can be present in different sections of the report, marketing plan, sorry?
Yep.
Has it become a little bit more clearer now? So in terms of my comments, so connection between theory and practice, as mentioned already, which is great. Comparisons between concepts or other retailers in this case. The explanation of comparisons, they've gone a little bit beyond just stating that John Lewis and Marks and Spencer's have fared against Debenhams in this way. They've gone on to bring in other retailers, and they've also justified their comparison within their writing. So they've said that the continued digital growth was part of the large contributing factor to the success of their international equivalent. Implications of practice. So they're talking about the result of the current pandemic and its impact. The negative implications have also been outlined as well in that paragraph. Identifying and explaining practices. So the writer talks about why market research is important before going into the application aspect. So talking about Debenhams in this case. They've brought in a little bit more comparison and what this means for the retailer. So within their summary of findings, and then they've got their final recommendations. So with this, I mean, this particular student had quite a few tables and quite a lot in the tables to talk about. But what they did well, as I said, was they cherry picked what was relevant and what they could build on within their writing. So in the same way, if you find that you've got your SWOT analysis in the table, don't feel that you need to talk about every single element of the SWOT. Think about what's going to be most relevant in terms of going into depth and justifying why that particular point is a strength or an opportunity or a threat, and whether you can bring in research to support that as well within the paragraph. Another thing to mention is that any tables you do or any figures that you put in, make sure you refer to it in your writing, because this is another thing that tends to put students down in terms of marks, is they'll do the SWOT analysis, which looks great, but then they won't develop on it or mention it in the actual writing itself. And it just looks like they've done the SWOT analysis and nothing else, developing on from that. So as this student has done, if you do end up doing a SWOT analysis, just make sure you're developing on what you've put in there as well. Okay, so I will send this annotated version to Hannah for you to have a look at if you want, whilst you're structuring your own writing. So let me just go back to my slides. Okay, so before I ask questions, I'm just going to show you some of the resources that we've got on our LibGuides page that are fairly recent. So the first one is, let me see where we've put it. Right, so here we've got a glossary of terms associated with assignment writing. So this is this year. So it gives you various terms from A to Z that are involved in assignment writing in general and learning outcomes. So in there will be terms associated with your particular assignment, such as appraising, critical evaluation, etc. So this might be useful for when you're planning your assignment and you're wanting to just get those terms planted into your head for understanding. The other one that I would point your attention to is the critical analysis one that we've got in here. And in here, there are the 6 elements that we talked about, as well as language that can be used to demonstrate critical writing. So as I said, part of gaining those higher marks is making it explicit to the reader through language that you are comparing or contrasting or evaluating, or expanding or categorizing, etc. So use these phrases, use them to your advantage, and maybe in your planning stages, think about what phrases can be tied to the particular concepts or sections that you're going to be discussing within your marketing plan. It might make it easier when you actually come to formulate your paragraphs. So I would do that. Okay. And then the rest of the guides are the ones that you've probably seen previously as well. Right, and we've got some resources on the slides, which again I will send across. So talks you through some arguments in academic writing, how to structure an argument, and our LibGuides page as well. Any questions? Was that useful?
Yes, thank you. I thought it was good.
Yes, very much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Great stuff. Okay, well, if you need any further help, or if you're unsure about which aspects of critical writing you need to apply to this, you can book an appointment with us. We can take you through the different stages. There is a booking link in the PowerPoint. So we're trying out a new booking software called Calendly. At the moment, we've got Tuesdays and Thursdays available with me, and then with Dan, it's Mondays and Fridays. So I'll send you the links across. So if you do want to book, you can do so through that link. If it doesn't work, or for whatever reason, technology is being technology, then just drop us an email and we'll book you in as normal. Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you ever so much. And I'll put this recording on the Moodle. I've already put our recording from this morning before you were part of it on Moodle as well, so all available. Thank you. That's brilliant.
No worries, Hannah. I'll send you all the resources by the end of today as well to pop up.
Yeah, I'll put those on as well. That's perfect. Okay.
Great
Thank
stuff.
you, Shivani.
Speak to you all soon.
Thank you.
Cheers,
Thank
thank you.
you.
Thanks,
you.
Shivani. Cheers.
Do make the most of it as well. If you do feel like you could be stronger on the library side or on the academic writing, there's both. Yeah, there is quite a lot of support on one-to-ones, and if you sort of organise with your assignments as well in terms of your timing, you've got the chance to book that in. So do make the most of it, because actually I know it's sponsored through your employers, but there's quite a lot of value. Like, where compared to other places I teach, there's a lot of support available through CU Coventry. In terms of the talk bits, we're all done for today. Is there any questions before we sort of then I see you on a one-to-one basis as per your invites?
No, thank you.
No, thank you ever so much for participating, and